Hey everyone, I know you use the video to fall asleep to, so before that, like the video and subscribe. Now make yourself comfortable and relax, because we're about to dive into the mind-bending, reality-warping origin story of Bill Cypher. This isn't just any villain. This is the all-powerful, all-seeing, chaos-loving triangle demon who can literally turn your worst nightmares into reality. He can jump into your dreams, twist your thoughts, and even snap his fingers to change the very laws of physics. Think of the most powerful magic user, the smartest scientist, and the most mischievous trickster, all rolled into one glowing yellow pyramid. That's Bill, and his story starts in a place so boring, so utterly bland, it drove him absolutely bonkers. Imagine a world that's just flat. Not like a pancake, but like a piece of paper. No ups, no downs, no exciting colors, just endless lines and angles. This was the second dimension, a super-duper boring place where everything was perfectly orderly, and no one had any fun. The beings who lived there were just shapes, like living triangles and squares, but they didn't have feelings or dreams or even ice cream. Their lives were a never-ending math problem, and they loved it. Seriously, they thought perfection was the best thing ever. Fun fact, the second dimension is so dull, it's considered by some interdimensional travelers to be the cosmic equivalent of watching paint dry for eternity. But then there was Bill. He was a triangle, just like the rest. But something was different about him. He had an itch, a terrible, burning itch under his perfectly straight edges. He hated the endless math, the boring perfection. He saw the second dimension not as a perfect home, but as a giant geometric prison. This is insane, Bill would secretly project to himself, his internal thoughts buzzing like an angry bee. Are we really just supposed to sit here and calculate until we just stop existing? That's not a life. That's a slow, predictable, triangular death sentence. He looked out to the very edges of his flat world. There, he saw strange, shimmery bits, like ripples in a puddle. The other shapes called them glitches, boring errors in their perfect system. But Bill saw them as doors to something more. He saw whispers of colors he couldn't imagine, sounds he couldn't compute, and feelings that were completely alien to his bland existence. He saw hints of a place called the third dimension, where things had depth, and people could actually choose what they wanted to do. Another fun fact, Bill learned about free will long before he ever saw a human. He found the idea terrifyingly beautiful and knew he had to experience it. Bill spent ages, what felt like forever, just watching. He studied those shimmering edges, poking and prodding them with his mind. He was like a super spy, secretly gathering all the weird, broken bits of reality that touched his dimension. He figured out that his flat world was powered by this incredibly stable, yet incredibly dull energy. It was like a giant, sleeping powerhouse. One day, Bill decided he'd had enough. Enough of the boring math, enough of the endless order. He decided it was time for a prison break. He gathered all the strange energy he'd secretly collected, all the weirdness he'd found, and focused the raw, boring power of his own dimension into one giant, angry point. The air, if you could even call it air in a flat world, started to sizzle and pop. His fellow shapes finally noticed. Unit 2 X Omega 7, one of them projected, a hint of something like worry in its perfectly straight lines. Your energy levels are off. Off? Bill roared, his voice no longer just a thought, but a scream of pure defiance. his perfect triangle shape began to wiggle and blur. You have no idea what off really means. And then, with a sound that would have shattered eardrums if flat shapes had ears, Bill unleashed all that bottled-up energy. The second dimension screamed. Not a human scream, but a sound of pure geometric agony as its perfect rules were utterly shattered. Reality cracked, splintering into a million tiny black and white pieces. Bill, no longer a flat triangle, but something new and wobbly, plunged right through the giant hole he'd made. He didn't even glance back. There was nothing left to see anyway. His boring, flat home imploded behind him, collapsing into a tiny dot, a silent, angular whimper in the vast emptiness. But Bill, he was gone. He was free. And the whole crazy, colorful multiverse was waiting for him, like a giant, chaotic playground, just begging to be messed with. He tumbled through swirling colors and impossible shapes. It was a dizzying, terrifying, but most of all, exciting mess. Bill loved it. He changed his shape, experimenting with new forms and powers. He saw living light, swirling clouds of gas, and even creatures made of pure thought. He soaked it all up, growing stronger with every new discovery. But one thing stayed the same: his triangle shape.
After completely wiping out those squishy, formless creatures, Bill's Cypher was pumped. He had tasted the sweet, delicious flavor of chaos, and he wanted more. He started looking for dimensions that were bigger, smarter, and had actual civilizations. These weren't just messy blobs of life, these were places with magic, with weird gods, and even strange prophecies about the future. Bill, being the ultimate rule-breaker, saw these places as giant candy stores, just waiting for him to cause some serious trouble. He didn't just smash in, though. Oh no, Bill is way too sneaky for that. He'd start small. He'd appear as a quick shadow, a whisper in someone's dream, or a creepy image that flashes in their mind. He learned their languages, read their entire histories, probably found them super boring, but still, and figured out what made them tick. He learned that the absolute best way to get power wasn't just to blow stuff up, it was to mess with people's feelings. Their hopes, their fears, their secret desires, that was the real gold mine. He got super good at twisting those feelings, turning them into weapons against the very people who had them. One of these civilizations was on the edge of becoming super advanced, almost like us. They were super curious, always trying to learn new things, even forbidden things they probably shouldn't have touched. They had even figured out a rough way to travel between dimensions, though they were clumsy about it. Bill, watching from the shadows, saw his next big opportunity. He started showing up in the minds of their smartest scientists, but he looked like a wise old cosmic dude. He pretended to be a cosmic librarian who had all the answers to everything. He showed them incredible glimpses of other dimensions, worlds filled with unimaginable beauty and crazy power. He told them, all this can be yours. Just listen to me. You want knowledge, little tiny humans? Bill's voice echoed in the mind of their leader, Elder Theron, sounding like 1,000 whispers at once. And boy, do I have knowledge. But real understanding comes with a price. Are you brave enough to pay it? Theron, his eyes wide like saucers, stammered, what price, Great One? We'd give anything to be smart. Bill let out a dark chuckle, a sound like an old building crumbling to dust. Anything, huh? Well, all I need is a little opening. Just a small rip in your reality. A doorway, you could say, to my home. Through it, I can share endless wisdom. Through it, you can become godlike. The scientists, totally blinded by how badly they wanted to be super smart, agreed. They spent years building this massive, crazy machine, following Bill's whispered instructions. It was supposed to rip open a tiny hole to another dimension. Bill, in his true, triangle form, watched them from far away, like a hungry shark watching clueless fish. He didn't care about their wisdom. He cared about the door. The day came to turn it on, and it was a giant party for the whole civilization. The air buzzed with magic, and the ground shook. Elder Theron, his hands shaking, pushed the final button. With a deafening roar and a blinding flash of light, the door ripped open. But it wasn't a nice, neat little doorway. It was a giant, screaming tear in the sky, spitting out not wisdom, but pure, sickening chaos. Bill, not needing to hide anymore, burst through the portal, his giant eye burning with evil joy. He was no longer a flicker, he was a solid, terrifying, yellow and black nightmare. The scientists screamed, their faces twisted in horror as they finally realized the terrible, terrible price they had paid for being greedy. Fools! Bill's voice boomed, shaking their cities to their foundations. You wanted knowledge? I give you the ultimate knowledge, your lives are pointless. He unleashed a flood of raw, wild chaos. Buildings melted and twisted like Play-Doh, people turned into screaming, grotesque monsters, and the air itself hardened into ugly, lumpy shapes. That entire super-smart civilization, which was almost ready to change the world, crumbled into madness and ruin in just a few hours. Bill loved every single second of their despair, their fear, their desperate cries. He sucked all the energy out of their dimension, leaving behind a shell of broken things and shattered minds. He did this over and over again, in countless dimensions. He'd find a civilization about to discover something amazing, offer them a quick way to get power or knowledge, and then, just when they thought they had won, he'd twist their achievements into the very things that destroyed them. He became a terrifying legend, a whispered nightmare among the few brave travelers who dared to jump between dimensions. They called him, the Weaver of Nightmares, the Mind Corrupter, and the Triangle of Terror. But Bill wasn't satisfied with just destroying things. He wanted total power. He realized that tearing open dimensions was cool, but it used up a lot of his energy. He needed a slower, sneakier, more efficient way to control and eventually conquer worlds. He started looking for a dimension that was super weak, a place where the barrier between realities was super thin, a world just begging to be taken over slowly and secretly. His search brought him to the third dimension, our dimension. It was bursting with life, emotions, and a super interesting, super bendy idea, dreams. He discovered that when humans slept, their minds were incredibly open. He could jump into their dreams, plant ideas, secretly mess with what they thought was real, and dig around in their deepest fears and wishes. This was a slow game, like a chess match that lasted for thousands of years, but it was way more effective. He spent ages becoming a master dreamwalker. He learned to sneak through the complicated maze of the human mind, to find their weak spots, and to promise them their wildest dreams in exchange for a tiny, tiny price, a forgotten memory, a quick moment of doubt, or a quiet whisper that would grow into a huge problem. He found one particular planet, a vibrant blue marble full of a weird, crazy species, humans. They were illogical, super emotional, and surprisingly easy to fool. Basically, they were perfect. He started messing with their minds slowly, appearing in ancient books, forgotten rituals, and the crazy dreams of old shamans and prophets. He built himself a reputation as a powerful, mysterious being, a source of forbidden secrets for anyone brave, or dumb, enough to look for them. He left behind cryptic clues, symbols, and strange objects, slowly weaving himself into their myths and legends. One of his favorite symbols was the eye. A single, all-seeing eye, usually inside a triangle. It became his calling card, a silent promise of hidden truths and terrifying power. He learned that humans, desperate to find meaning in life, would often make up their own stories about his symbols, helping him spread his sneaky influence without him doing anything. He also found that some people were super easy to control, like their minds had a thinner shield. These were often people who really wanted power, who were super ambitious, or who felt completely hopeless. He'd offer them a super tempting deal, their biggest dreams coming true, if they just gave him their loyalty, their minds, and eventually, their very souls. His ultimate goal became crystal clear: to completely break into the third dimension, to smash down the flimsy wall between realities, and to bring about a new era of pure chaos, a Weirdmageddon, where he would be the absolute, undisputed boss. He knew it wouldn't be quick. It would take careful planning, super sneaky tricks, and a slow breaking down of reality itself. But Bill, the master schemer, the patient predator, was happy to wait. He had all the time in the multiverse. Hashtag the eye of gravity falls, a millennia of manipulation. Bill's super long, super sneaky plan eventually led him to a weird spot on Earth, a tiny, isolated town hidden deep inside a huge, magical forest. This place was called Gravity Falls, Oregon. It wasn't just any town, it was like a giant magnet for weird stuff, a thin spot where the wall between dimensions was super easy to poke through. Magic wasn't just a fairy tale here, it was a real, powerful force, bubbling just under the surface, sometimes bursting out in crazy, unpredictable ways. He felt it first as a faint hum, a strange vibration different from the usual static of dimensional weirdness. It was a chaotic hum, but it also sounded inviting. He started sending his thoughts into the dreams of the first people who lived in Gravity Falls, just watching, learning, and secretly nudging their ideas about the strange things happening around them. He pretended to be a mischievous spirit, a friendly forest ghost, or even a helpful guide, offering solutions to their everyday problems with a wink and a promise of a small, forgotten price. One particularly curious family, the McGuckets, were some of his first victims. Fiddleford McGucket, a super smart but very odd inventor, was obsessed with all the weird stuff in Gravity Falls. Bill, appearing in his dreams as a glowing, friendly triangle, showed him glimpses of how the multiverse worked, hinting at amazing technologies no human had ever dreamed of. Fiddleford, Bill's voice would hum in the dream, like a comforting lullaby, "Your brain is truly awesome. You see things others can't. Imagine the incredible inventions you could make if you only had the right tools. The right secret knowledge." Fiddleford, completely hooked by his scientific curiosity, eagerly soaked up Bill's lessons. Bill, through these dream visits, secretly guided Fiddleford to build machines that looked like they were for science, but were actually making the dimensional wall around Gravity Falls super weak. He pushed Fiddleford to dig deeper, to mess with energies he didn't even understand, slowly pushing him closer and closer to going completely crazy. The portal, Fiddleford, Bill would purr, his single eye glinting with a hidden evil, is the ultimate key. It will unlock all secrets, all knowledge. You're so close, just a little more power, a little more sacrifice. Fiddleford, who at first tried to resist Bill's creepier ideas, eventually gave in to the lure of forbidden knowledge. He started having terrifying visions, quick glimpses of Bill's true, monstrous form and the horrible chaos that was coming. He tried to warn everyone, but his increasingly weird behavior and crazy babbling made the townspeople think he was just a lunatic. Bill had planned it perfectly, making sure his pawn was alone and that no one would listen to his warnings. As years turned into decades, and then centuries, Bill kept up his sneaky work. He secretly influenced various secret clubs and cults that popped up in Gravity Falls, promising them power, money, or enlightenment in exchange for them unknowingly helping him weaken the dimensional wall. The town became a hotbed of strange events, its history filled with tales of people vanishing, weird monsters, and things that just couldn't be explained. All of these were tiny threads in Bill's giant, evil plan for chaos. He became a shadowy legend, a whispered name among the few who truly understood what was going on in Gravity Falls. Some tried to fight him, to seal off the weird stuff, but Bill, always there in the dream world, would secretly mess up their plans, turning their own methods against them. He learned to use human paranoia, distrust, and ambition, turning neighbors against neighbors, weakening the town's ability to fight back. Then came the Pines family. Specifically, Stanford Pines, a super smart, but a bit arrogant, scientist who was obsessed with discovering new things. Bill saw Stanford as a new, powerful pawn. Stanford, just like Fiddleford, was drawn to the weirdness of Gravity Falls, desperate to unlock its secrets. Bill, through a series of carefully planned discoveries and super tempting clues, guided Stanford deeper into the town's mysteries. He even appeared to Stanford, not just in dreams, but through a special, magical pyramid that Stanford found in some old ruins. Bill pretended to be a friendly spirit, an interdimensional being of pure thought, who just wanted to share his amazing knowledge with a worthy mind. Stanford, Bill's voice echoed from the pyramid, sounding strong and important, appealing to Stanford's ego. You have a mind like no other on this planet. Your brain is a bright light in the darkness. I can show you things you never even dreamed of, reveal truths that would break the minds of smaller mortals. Stanford, flattered and super curious, started working with Bill. Bill fed him blueprints for crazy machines, secret math equations, and weird warnings about the multiverse. He told Stanford to build a portal, a gateway to other dimensions, saying it was for science and to help humanity. The portal, Stanford, Bill would say, his single eye glowing with a super hypnotic shine, will be your greatest triumph. It will change everything you know about existence. Imagine the knowledge we can gather, the wonders we can bring. Stanford, obsessed with his research and completely blinded by his ambition, poured his entire life into building the portal. He wrote down everything he found in 3 super detailed journals, unknowingly creating a roadmap for Bill's future invasion. He became isolated, pushing away his family, especially his twin brother, Stanley, who, despite his own flaws, truly cared about Stanford. This isolation was exactly what Bill wanted, a mind focused only on the job, not bothered by pesky feelings like empathy. However, Stanford, unlike Fiddleford, started to get suspicious about Bill. He noticed how dark and unsettling Bill's advice was getting, the tiny hints of evil hiding behind the cosmic wisdom. He saw quick glimpses of Bill's power, not as enlightening, but as destructive. The final straw came when Bill tried to possess Stanford's body, a desperate attempt to get a physical foothold on Earth before the portal was even fully ready. "You lied to me, demon!" Stanford screamed, his mind reeling from the attempted takeover. "You're not a muse. You're a monster." Bill, briefly losing his cool, snarled, "A monster? I am freedom. I am the end of suffering through order. You're an idiot, Stanford, for fighting what's coming." Stanford, horrified, managed to escape Bill's mental grip. He realized the terrifying truth: the portal wasn't for exploring, it was a key for Bill's invasion. In a desperate act, he tried to shut down the portal, but a struggle with his brother, Stanley, accidentally sucked Stanford into the dimensional rift, trapping him in the endless craziness of the multiverse. Bill, watching this unexpected twist, was annoyed for a second. His perfect plan had been messed up. But he was also amused. The portal was still open, even if it was shaky. Stanford was gone, but his journals remained, hidden but waiting to be found. The stage was still set. The seed of chaos had been planted, and now it was just a matter of time before it bloomed into the glorious, terrifying show he imagined. Gravity Falls, this seemingly tiny town, would be his gateway, his launchpad for Weirdmageddon. He just needed the right spark, the perfect mix of events to start the inevitable. And Bill was patient. He always was. ## the rise of Weirdmageddon, Dipper, Mabel, and the Cypher wheel. After Stanford Pines accidentally vanished into the portal, Bill found himself stuck in a weird waiting game. The portal was still there, a pulsing, ugly scar under Gravity Falls, but without Stanford's direct help, it was wobbly and unpredictable. Bill couldn't just strut through it. He needed everything to be just right, the energies to line up perfectly, and, most importantly, a new set of unsuspecting victims. For 30 long years, Bill just simmered, his evil influence a constant, low hum under the surface of Gravity Falls. He watched as the town kept being its weird self, its people mostly clueless about the cosmic battle happening right above their heads. He saw Stanley Pines, Stanford's twin brother, who, in a misguided attempt to bring Stanford back, kept messing with the portal in the Mystery Shack's basement. Bill saw Stanley's desperation, his rock-solid loyalty to his brother, as a weakness he could totally use, even if it was from a distance. He also kept an eye on all the local weirdness, the strange creatures and paranormal events that popped up in Gravity Falls. He'd occasionally appear in the dreams of desperate or curious townspeople, dropping cryptic hints, gentle nudges, and promises of power, always with the secret goal of stirring up more chaos and drawing more energy to the portal. He knew that the more weird, magical energy that piled up in the town, the easier it would be for him to smash through the dimensional wall. Then, one fateful summer, the perfect sparks arrived. Dipper and Mabel Pines, Stanford's great-nephew and great-niece, sent to Gravity Falls to stay with their great-uncle Stanley. Bill instantly felt their potential. Dipper, with his endless curiosity and super-logical mind, was like a younger, easier-to-trick version of Stanford. Mabel, with her endless optimism, wild creativity, and deep emotions, was a total wild card, impossible to predict but full of a unique energy Bill found utterly fascinating. Crucially, Dipper soon stumbled upon one of Stanford's hidden journals. Bill felt a thrill, a jolt of pure evil excitement. The journals, packed with Stanford's research and warnings, were also, totally by accident, a guide to all the mysteries of Gravity Falls, a map to unlocking the very powers Bill wanted to use. He knew that by pulling Dipper deeper into the town's secrets, he would bring him closer to unknowingly helping Bill's evil plan. Bill started appearing to Dipper in his dreams, at first acting like a super helpful guide, a source of forbidden knowledge, just like he had done with Stanford. He offered solutions to Dipper's problems, whispered secrets about the weird creatures, and encouraged his hunger for understanding. "Kid," Bill's voice, now a friendly, almost joking tone in the dream world, would say, his single eye winking mischievously, "You're a smart one. You see things others don't. You want answers, right? I can give them to you. For a tiny little payment, of course. Just a simple handshake." Dipper, at first suspicious, was often swayed by Bill's apparent niceness and the exciting lure of solving mysteries. Bill tricked him into all sorts of schemes, each one designed to subtly mess with reality around Gravity Falls or to get his hands on more powerful magic objects. He pulled the strings, setting up situations where Dipper or Mabel would accidentally unleash powerful monsters or uncover forgotten spells, all feeding into the growing, chaotic energy. One of his cleverest tricks involved possessing Dipper's body, an act that nearly killed Dipper and showed everyone Bill's true, evil nature. "This body is mine now, Pine Tree." Bill cackled through Dipper's distorted voice, his eye blazing with triumph. "And with it, I'll finally get what I need."